Hey there, my fellow designers and creatives. Hope you're all doing well. Welcome to another video in this series on redesigning a mobile app. In this video, we're going to go ahead and look at tagging transactions. It might be a simple feature, but there are a lot of things that can go wrong if you don't go ahead and pay attention to interaction design and UX design. So without any further ado, let's get started. All right, so here I am in the Ford Money app. And I'm going to be taking Netflix transactions as an example to keep things a little bit simple. And I'm going to show you how it works and, what are the things that we can fix, what are the problems, what are the good things, what are the bad things, etc. Right? So here, as you can see, for January and December, I have two transactions. And there are a couple of ways to track a transactions. So if you tap on the actual list item, it's going to take you to the transaction details screen, which is correct. That's what it should do. But if you tap on it and long press on it, then you can get this context menu, or basically the bottom sheet, where you can choose to tag, and that will trigger the tag flow. Or you have that CTA in the list item itself, which you can tap, and that's going to open this up, right? So this is where we're going to go ahead and start tagging. Now, one of the things that you automatically see here is that the keyboard comes up. And the reason it comes up, because 99.9% of the times, users are not going to scroll through a list and spend seconds or minutes searching for something. They will obviously always use the search bar in order to go ahead and search for something. That is the standard pattern, which means all of these things that are down here, it's important to have it, but nobody's going to come down over here and search for a specific category and a subcategory and do all of these things. It's extremely rare that somebody is going to do it, and it's impossible for somebody to find it in a such short period of time. And it doesn't really make sense as well, right? So the search here has to be pretty robust, and I have tested the search. It is pretty good. So no complaints on that. It does search for everything that I want. It's pretty contextual. It tries to broaden up the category so that, I do find something even if I'm not very good at searching for something, right? So that's good. Now, so let's open this up. And I've already spoken about this from a UI standpoint. I don't like the fact that, there's so much space being taken up, and the entire transaction list item itself, you see the edit icon on the left. I don't know why there is an edit icon. You have this button, which is to tag. I don't know why this button to tag is again there. A lot of unnecessary information, right? But anyway, now there are two options. Like I said, either you go ahead and search in the search bar, or you can use this thing called most used. Now, there are a lot of problems with this most used section. Now, what is most used? Is it categories or tags that are used mostly by me, or is it mostly used by everybody else? Right? So that's first of all a big question, because first of all, you're not supposed to suggest what other people are using, right? And the second, using the word most used is quite confusing because it's unclear as to who is using these words. Now, if you are suggesting categories based on my transactions, then the appropriate term would be frequently used, for you, recommended, suggested. These words make it feel like these categories are for me specifically based on my transactions, right? So that's one thing. The second thing over here, if you see here, is that we have investment, you have subscription again, you've got food and drinks, and you've got cash withdrawal. Now, as a user, when I see subscription two times, which one am I supposed to pick? Now, in essence, the one with the Netflix logo is actually the subcategory, and the word without the Netflix logo is the main category. Now, if I, as a user, am coming here with very high intent, I am most likely going to pick the subcategory if you let me pick the subcategory, right? So I would definitely pick Netflix because I know this is a Netflix transaction, right? So when you show subscription and subscription two times as two separate tags, it's confusing to the user. Now, in this case, it might be easy because it's a Netflix logo. But what if it's an investment and you have some other logo? So if you go down to the investment section, let's see if we can find investments. So here you've got mutual funds, you've got stock, you've got PPF, you've got NPF, you've got fixed deposit now. And let's look at this one, right? The one with the assets. It's extremely unclear as to what that icon represents without even reading the label, right? So if you come back over here, and we saw that we had a category called as investment, which is the first one, and the second one also said investment with that icon, which I could not, sort of understand, then I would be super confused as to which one to pick, right? So this most used suggested area has to be fixed so as to let users pick something that they clearly know, right? So my recommendation here is to show the subcategory if you're able to identify that a recommended tag is a subcategory. Because, for example, if you see your food and drinks, there's no subcategory. It's a top level category. So you can select food and drinks. But if you're able to identify that it's a subcategory like the Netflix subscription, you should say Netflix, right? That's important to do so. Or showing subscription 2 times is confusing to users, right? And you're also taking up unnecessary space because you're adding an extra tag, which, nobody's going to select, right? So that's one thing. Now, moving on. So we have a bunch of these categories. Now, a couple of things that I don't really like here is that they're adding descriptions to every category. Let's say, for example, food and drinks, they're adding a description saying eating out, Swiggy, Zomato. And for transport, you're saying Uber, Ola, and other modes of transport. I mean, first of all, there's no, description needed. And the description also is not really helpful because they're literally pointing out the various, subcategories they have, right? So it's not really adding value. So I would definitely remove that. Another thing, they have this thing called as no icon, which I've mentioned before. I don't really like. No icon is users should not have to make that decision. And it's completely like a design term. It's not for consumers, right? So you should automatically assign some sort of an icon or, do something else, right? Showing no icon is not a good option, right? Because if I select food and drinks over here, it automatically selects no icon, and that should never happen, right? And my most important point is if users are coming here with high intent, most likely you should let them choose a subcategory rather than a top category, right? That is more important to do so, because if you add a subcategory, that's more beneficial to everybody. So this concept of no icon, I definitely, sort of want to remove, right? So I'm going to go ahead and remove the tag. Now, the weirdest thing here is that in order to remove this tag, there are two options. Either I can go ahead and discard changes, but let's say I don't want to, right? I have to scroll all the way to the bottom and then remove the tag over here, which again, that's poor discovery, right? So that's also something that has to be fixed. All right. So coming back over here, a couple of more things that I saw is there are certain categories, for example, over here, if I can sort of quickly find that, which is tax, where again, they're saying income tax, property tax, etc. Like that's not needed, right? The icons for the tax, being a fintech app, this is quite surprising for me, where, there's like a emoji for income tax and GST. I don't really understand why that's there. I understand that they're trying to be funny, but and playful and everything, but I don't think this is the place to be playful. First of all, paying income tax is not a bad thing, already. Paying income tax and filing a return is going to help you in a lot of other things in the future. It's going to help you get a visa, help you get a loan, help you do a bunch of other things. So paying income tax is not really a bad thing. And GST as well, not really a bad thing. You're going to get input credit out of it. You can use it for various things. You can reduce your tax liability. So it's not really a bad thing, and it's a good financial habit to pay. So in essence, paying taxes is not really a bad thing, and it shouldn't be represented this way. And coming from a fintech app, is sort of a very surprising decision for me, right? So I would sort of definitely change this. I am in the test flight version of the app because I'm testing out their credit cards. So maybe this has been changed, but if this is not changed, then I highly recommend them they change it, right? So that's that. All right. So that's about tagging transactions. Now let's go ahead and actually tag this. So I'm actually going to come over here. I'm not going to search for it, or let's actually search for it, right? I'm going to tap in Netflix. All right. Let's see what we get. So we get bill. Now we don't really have Netflix as a bill, so I don't know why bill is coming up. But we have a subscription, and Netflix is already a subscription. So I'm going to tap on that, and that should do the trick. Now, one of the things that you see here, it says review and tag one similar transaction. All right. And we see the icon in that button. I don't know what that icon really is. Looks like some, like an ancient mythical icon. I don't really know what that icon really is. It's weird, but I don't even think an icon is needed in the button, but we'll look into that later. And what I can do here is I can tag and review similar transactions. All right. Now I will show you over here, but then again, I'm going to show it to you in Figma as well. I have the screens laid out, right? So I'm going to tap on review and tag similar transaction. And what I see here is this. Now, there are a couple of problems on the screen, which I will not go through. But basically what you can do is you can tap on this, select it. And it's weird that it gives absolutely no feedback at all. And you can tap on the check mark to, go ahead and add it. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And then it says 2 transaction tags. At least it's good that they're showing you a toast message. So that's good. All right. So this is basically how tagging system works, and I'm going to show you how I went ahead and redesigned it in Figma. All right, so here I'm in Figma. I've just taken two screenshots. This is a different screenshot from a different transactions. Here you can see investment is the one that's being used again, and I don't really know what this one is. So most likely I would go ahead and tap on this, but it's beneficial to let users always choose a subcategory for better organization, right? So here again, this was a different example that I showed you. All right. Now, I forgot to show you the incomes categories. Obviously, the expense categories are different from incomes. So here again, in incomes, you have earnings and earnings. Again, confusing. Why? Right? Super confusing. Now, the other thing here is that for earnings, you've got a couple of options, and you've also got items that are single in nature, right? You don't really have subcategories for these. All right. And then you've got cashback and you've got miscellaneous payments. And again, remove tag is at the very end. Right. All right. So now let's go ahead and look at the concepts that I made. Now, the first thing that I did was I removed everything else, which is basically I removed this entire section, pick a tag, will fetch similar transactions. I removed all of this because the core focus needs to be the search. All right. And of course, there should be a keyboard that should come up. I haven't gone ahead and designed that experience for now. I'm just designing the screen for now. But of course, when a user lands on this, the search bar will be active, but I haven't done that, right? Because I'm just trying to figure out the screen layout. And a couple of things over here, right? So if we were to understand from a, interaction or a UX standpoint, when I tap on a transaction, I actually know what transaction it is, right? That's why I saw a transaction that was a Netflix transaction and I want to tap on it and I know what it is. So I don't really see a need to remind the user of all the details. They know that they had selected a transaction for Netflix, right? I don't think it's going to be that big of a problem. So here I'm going to say select tag. Now, ideally, maybe select tag is not the right word. Select category is a better word. But again, they're using the word tag across the app. So I'm just going to go ahead and go with that, right? For starters, I removed the most used or the suggested section. I just wanted to focus on this. Now, what I did here is I just added two categories and see how it would work. I removed a couple of things over here. First of all, I removed the the radio button over here because I don't really want people to choose this because that would automatically select no icon. And I don't want this concept of no icon in the app as well. So if you come over here and you're tagging, you should tag a subcategory that's beneficial for everyone. We want to force users to sort of do that. All right. And you obviously know what it is. And even if they don't have the exact one, there should be an option where they can choose a generic option over here, right? So for example, others. In this case, right? It might not be rent, it might not be freelance, maybe it's others. So there should be a category of others for everything else, right? Or they should have, categories, listed over here so that users should be able to find what they want. Adding this checkbox and selecting no icon is not really an option. It's not a good experience in my opinion. All right. So I tried this. This looked pretty fine. All right. No icon is, no category selected over here. So we're going to look at the selection state a little bit later. Then I tried another option where we add, two rows over here. But the problem here is that it's taking up too much space. And again, 99% of the time, users are not going to scroll through this and they're just going to tap on the search bar. So all of this is pretty much a big waste, to be very honest. So I, chucked this concept as well. Here's another one where I then brought back the suggested one. So we have investment, Netflix, cash withdrawal, medicine, medical, mutual funds, whatever it is, right? And all of these will be either the category, the top level category, if we don't know what the subcategory is. But in this case, because we know what the subcategory is, which is a Netflix subscription, then we would show Netflix over here. All right. Same thing with mutual fund. We will not show investment. If the system identified that this is a subcategory, then we will show mutual funds and not investments as an option. All right. Then I kept these two like this. Again, this is taking up way too much space. And, this is a bigger screen size. On a smaller screen size, we would barely see anything. So this was not really a good idea. Then I tried another one over here where only the suggested, I kept that into 2 rows. The rest, I, broke them down into single rows because that, made a lot of sense. That also I didn't really like. So I went ahead and came here. I did try to bring back that no icon option in the beginning and also added this, subcategory outside. All right. That's something that I tried. But again, I don't really want this concept of no icon. I just tried it and, I didn't really like it. All right. So this is the final design I came up with. All right. This is for the expenses and this is for the income. I'm going to show you that in a second. So over here, the option to remove the tag I added over here. Now, I know that this might not be the best option. It may be better to have a text button over here. But in case we feel we need to add more things over here, then this would be a better option. And again, this is not really a big deal because users are not really going to come and remove tags. That's a very low use case. It's even very hard to even make a sensible user story for it. But tapping on this would give you like a bottom sheet where you can remove the tag, right? So I've kept it over here, but again, at the same time, not kept it super visible because it's not really a core action. It doesn't have to be there up front. All right. So remove tag would be over here. Now, a couple of things I did over here is I kept the titles outside as usual because I want users to select a subcategory. That is a good behavior and that is a good intention. But of course, in the suggested case, if the system is able to recognize that it's a top level category, which in this case is investment, then that's fine. But if not, I want users to select a subcategory, right? So here, let's say they wanted to choose food and drinks, they would come here and then they would choose a subcategory as such, right? I also removed this entire concept of no icon. There can be an option called as others at the very end if they're not able to find something, but no icon makes absolutely no sense in my opinion. All right. And I just use this placeholder, icon for now. Obviously, I haven't added all the icons, obviously, because I don't want to spend time doing that, right? So this should be simple. This should be straightforward. And even the search should work pretty similar. I have a dedicated video on search. If you haven't seen that, make sure to check that out. It would work very similar to this. All right. Now, coming here to the incomes. What I've done here is if you go ahead and look at the incomes for a second, right? So you have suggested, we're going to keep that as it is. Then you have earnings. Now, earnings is fine. And then you then have salary, self-transfer, gift, borrowed, refund, return, etc., whatever. And then you've got cashback, you've got miscellaneous, right? Now, this I felt was a bit too much. And here, because we don't have this pattern of selecting a single top level category, what I decided was we're going to change this, right? Now, how you design this doesn't really matter that much because users are anyway going to use the search, right? So as long as the search is powerful, this way of, organizing doesn't really, matter. And it's better to be consistent with the design if you really want to make a design decision that way, right? So what I did here was I took earnings, so rent, freelance, and others, right? So rent, freelance, and others. I removed this whole concept of no icon. Others would be the same as no icon. So again, showing no icon here makes no sense for me. So keep this and the rest of the things, right? And in fact, I could actually go ahead and add another option over here. So if I were to go ahead and add another option, so I would make this as others and this I would keep it as salary. All right. Then you have cashback, which is Google Pay, Paytm, and PhonePe. So they have a cashback section over here. Again, no icon. We can have an option called as others. And miscellaneous is everything else. And you just have one category. So it doesn't really make sense to call something miscellaneous, but then just have one subcategory under it, right? So what I then did was I decided to call it others. And here we would probably call this a tip. All right. And here we would call this others or miscellaneous or I don't know, we can choose miscellaneous and everything else is going to come under that if you can't choose a subcategory for it, right? So keeping things like this is a lot simpler, but again, doesn't really matter to the user because they're not going to come and scroll through this. They will search over here. So as long as they search for the right term and, we have a category and we can do that matching correctly, this should be fine, right? So earnings would be rent, freelance, salary because they somehow connected together. It could be rental income, freelance income, salary income, whatever it is. I would also keep another section for, investments and stocks such as dividend, sale of investments, things like that. I think over here, they don't really have that. So here, so self-transfer definitely can come under miscellaneous. Gift can again come under miscellaneous. Then you have borrowed over here, which could be one. So, borrowed, refund, returned money can sort of all be combined. Interest, redemption on basically from investments, dividend, all of this could be combined together. Cash deposit also could come under earnings or it could come under miscellaneous or whatever it is, right? So we can put these into, again, separate categories. And again, we don't really need a description for everything, right? And if you see over here, redemption and cash deposits, they have the exact same icon. So it's very unclear as to what is going to be what if I just see the icon, right? So there are a lot of things that have to be fixed over here, all right? But I hope that a similar pattern like this should be better. Now, we're going to move into the next part, which not a lot of people think are going to be important, but it is very important, which is to organize these items in the row. And what exactly is this? I'm going to take you through a little bit of a process. Now, what I've done here is I've just taken, all the 3 examples over here, and I've gone ahead and tried to see what is the best way to organize them. All right. Now, I've not added any padding to any of the elements. So here they're all touching each other. All right. But I've entered names. And of course, this looks super ugly, right? Without a doubt, super ugly. The touch area is small. Everything is going all over the place. We need to find a uniform solution. All right. Now, I tried another option here. Go ahead and call this frame. And tried another option over here by adding padding. Now, what does this mean? So what I've done here is I've added a padding over here internally of around 16 pixels. Now, that makes things look a little bit better. This looks better. This looks better. But over here doesn't look great, right? You have a lot of this empty space. Of course, we will have more categories, but without scrolling, we'll see 5. But here we would see 7 or 8, and here we would see 5. Again, it's too much for the eye to sort of see and visualize, right? Now, one of the things that I've done here is I've added padding, or in this case, margin, or depends on how you would construct this, between 2 elements, right? There is no internal padding. There's only margin that's outside, or basically this gap. I tried another option over here, all right, where I added internal padding over here. So the padding is inside and the elements are touching each other. Now, the problem with this is that these icons are now not aligned, which I don't really like. I understand that we can't align the text, it's pretty impossible, but not aligning the icon over here is quite bothering to me, right? I would like the icons to be aligned properly, at least the icons, right? At least maybe that brings in some level of symmetry, because there's no symmetry at all anywhere over here, right? So at least if we align the first level icons, maybe it brings a little bit of symmetry, right? Let's move on. So then I decided let's add a fixed width. Maybe that solves problems, right? So over here, we added fixed width, but over here now you can see that each of these, obviously all the tabs, as you can see, I added a fixed width of 68. Doesn't matter what the value is, but the fact that when you do that, because some texts are going to be long, you have a lot of gap over here. You don't really have a lot of gap over here. Again, this is causing a lot of problems. All right. So I tried another option where I added fixed width plus padding. All right. So I added a fixed width of, 68 or whatever it is actually over here. Yeah, 68. I don't know why it's not showing over here. Yeah, there is, as you can see. This should be 68. All of this is 68. And I also added padding, but over here again, it's too spaced out. It's like way too much going on, right? And what happens if there's a word that's longer than, as you can see, video games is getting cut over here. It's exceeding by 2 pixels. What if there's a longer term, right? So we will fall into a lot of problems. So then what I decided was to add a minimum width to it. All right. So here, what I did was I selected this and I added a minimum width of 64, right? It's sort of like a fixed width, but it's a minimum width and then it expands later on. All right. So I added this. All right. So here, as you can see, it's nicely sitting in the container, but it's very close to this, right? And we don't really want that. So the last option was to add minimum width plus padding to it. All right. So here I added minimum width and padding. So as you can see over here, each of these elements has a minimum width, and I've also added some gap between this. So now electronics and video games is spaced out. And I think this looks a little bit better. Still not the best in my opinion, but it looks a little bit better. All right. I tried another option here where I added internal padding. So each of this has a minimum width of 64, but also has internal padding, as you can see over here, right? So here there's internal padding, and that again definitely messed things out. Here the alignment broke. So, this internal padding is not a solution that I want to go with, right? So I finalized on this. Now, again, this is not really the best solution. We have this limitation because of the design language, right? What do I mean by that? So if we come back over here to the designs, because we have this, box system, it makes things a lot complicated and it reduces the choices that we have to design things, right? And I had an iteration where I had each of these as a separate box, but that became a total nightmare because then there were like 20 boxes on the screen and the screen looked super, super, super ugly. So we definitely had to keep all of them inside, but this comes with its own limitations, which is why you don't see a lot of apps doing this. They usually follow a very flat design concept because it's a lot simpler. The moment you add a lot more boxes and a lot more backgrounds and colors, it just makes things a lot more complicated from a visual standpoint, right? So this is about tagging. So I hope this design makes a lot more sense and is a little simpler than what we see over here, because even if you see over here, we have way too much going on. Here we have shadow, here we don't have shadow. Here you have a different background color. Here we have a different background color. Here the corner radius is different than this. The paddings, the gaps. There is so much going on. Like this gray color is different from this gray color, and which is different from this border color. So there's a lot going on, to be very honest, right? And there are so many colors over here. This one has a stroke, but none of the other ones with, a fill doesn't really have a stroke. So, just cleaning things up and keeping this very simple is super important. Now, I know I'm going to say this again. This is not really the best design because this has its own limitations, but this is at least a much better upgrade, which looks very similar to the rest of the app, in my opinion, right? So now let's go ahead and look into the other section where we have this tagging similar transactions. All right. Now, the first thing, we're going to go ahead and look at the step by step. The first thing is this thing, which is this icon. I don't really know what this icon really is. It's pretty hard to understand. And then here it says review and tag one similar transaction. Now, I don't like the fact that we're having these buttons pop up in the middle, because this pops up right up in the middle. It makes sense to have it on the top or at the bottom. Keep things simple. Don't really, put buttons in the middle of the screen. It's not a good pattern. But I started off with that. That would be my starting point, right? And I saw that and I didn't really like this, all right? This was such a huge button in the middle and I didn't really like it. Then I decided to reduce the emphasis by making it a secondary type button, but nobody's sort of going to see it, or people can probably miss it. And again, not a great, design, to be very honest. So what I then did was I decided to go with this option where I would add this at the bottom. We have this on the filter screen. We have it in many places across the app. So it makes a lot more sense to have it over here and follow that pattern. So the moment you select one and then we recognize as a similar transaction, we can go ahead and select this. Of course, we have no icon and no icon over here. This was an old iteration. So, please ignore that. But here we have tag similar one transaction, and tapping on this would then take you to the next screen that looks like this. So here you have similar transactions. It's very unclear as to what I have to do over here. All right, because you have this check mark. It feels like I already did tag the transaction, but I didn't really tag the transaction. I thought that I would tag the transactions because I see a check mark, but I have not tagged the transaction. So this is a bit confusing. You have here this text information that says food and drinks. I don't really know why this is over here. We have all of this information over here. The interesting thing here is that you actually have to tap on this area to tag it, or else it doesn't get selected. So it's because when you tap on this, it opens up the transaction details thing, right? So then it would confuse users. Hey, if I'm tapping on this, you're not selecting it. Where should I tap? Because this doesn't look like I can tap on it. Feels just like a piece of information. Because if I tap on paid to, you don't really do anything. So over here also, I might be super confused and I might assume that I can't tap on this, right? So that's another problem, right? And here it says tag all similar transactions. I think, again, this is fine. So what I decided was I changed the design a little bit. I came up with this concept where I called it select transaction. So it's super clear for the user to understand what they have to do. Is that, okay, I have to now select transactions. Instead of choosing similar transaction, choose select transactions. You have the main first transaction as a review for you so that you will know which one you're tagging and you can be very clear about it. All right. And then we have a title which says transactions, which we don't have over here. And you have these two transactions. All right. Now here I kept this bottom button over here which says tag all transactions. So that would tag it. Now let's say I did tap on it. Then we would have save at the top. Then we would have reset at the bottom. But ideally, reset should not be the primary CTA. Save should be the primary CTA. So this also I didn't like. But over here, tapping on this transaction or this entire area would sort of turn this into a check mark, which makes it super clear that two transactions have been tagged. And that would make a lot more sense. All right, which would be definitely better than this over here. I didn't like that. So I tried another option over here where I changed this to confirm. And I removed the option to reset. If you want to reset, you can go back and come back again. You don't really have to reset it, exactly from here. All right. It's not like filters where I would reset and play around. This sort of is a very rare thing that users would do. It doesn't happen all the time. And ideally users shouldn't even be doing this. The system should automatically tag. So this use case should die away as the, tagging system or the engine that they have becomes a lot more strong, right? So this use case we have of selecting similar transactions may not even exist or should not even exist, right? But anyway, here I changed the CTA to confirm. This was fine. This was all right. But again, this comes with its own problems, right? So over here, what I did was I did not have anything over here. I removed this ability to tag all transactions. And I thought, maybe let's let users select it one at a time, or we keep it over here, which says select all, right? Might work, might not work. This is pretty much the same thing, but here we have the button at the bottom. Here we have it, on the right side. Sort of didn't really like, both of them, because in the end, you want to encourage users to tag all the transactions. So it should be the primary CTA. It shouldn't be hidden away over here. All right. And so finally, I came up with this concept, and let me take you through it. So in the beginning, we have tag all, and I made it a secondary level. Of course, it is the most important action, but I gave it a visual treatment that isn't taking a lot of attention. But at the same time, people know that this is the primary action that they have to take. Now, if you do select just one transaction, in this case, as you can see over here, I bring in the button to save, because I should be able to save even one single transaction. You shouldn't force me to select everything. And then I kept this button, which is tag all. I reduced the size of it so that, if I tap on it, then I would select all the transactions. All right. And now whether I tapped on tag all or I tapped on the second transaction, in this case, we selected both the transactions. Here, nothing changes, right? Now I've removed the whole concept of reset, like I mentioned before, because I don't really think, that should be a big deal. It's just going to complicate things, adding too many buttons over here. If you want to reset, just go back, discard changes, and come back and do it all over again, right? Not a big problem, right? So we don't really have to reset over here and unselect everything, right? So I felt like this was a much better and a simpler approach, and definitely visually looks a lot better when we compare it to this, what we have over here. Definitely there's so much going on over here. Here as well, a lot of things going on, right? And one of the weirdest things that I see over here is that there is 1062, but here it's 170.82. So how did you identify that this is a similar transaction? Because the merchant is not the same, the value is not the same. So how did this come over here? This is a question that I have myself. All right, so there must be some problem over here with the tagging system. But anyway, I hope at least this makes sense from a product design standpoint, and this is a lot simpler and a lot better to understand. So that's pretty much it for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys really enjoyed it. If you did, let me know in the comment sections down below. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more amazing, awesome content. I'll see you guys in my next video. So till then, take care and bye-bye.